everyone. So like Parmander said, my name is Leigh Slagle. I have my master's degree in nutrition and dietetics. I've been a registered dietitian for the past 6 years. I've been with Valley for the past 5, and I'm also board certified in oncology nutrition, and I've held that for the past 2 years. Just to get some kind of paperwork out of the way, American Institute of Cancer Research, sometimes I shorthand that to AICR. If you Google AICR, that's what will come up. A&D is also the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, so if I refer to them throughout the presentation, you know what I'm referring to. So this presentation is meant to educate you so you can make the best food and nutrition choices for your body. Individual specific questions should be addressed privately with your registered dietitian or registered dietitian nutritionist. So what does plant-based mean? Well, there's really no standard definition. Eating habits are focused on plant foods, but to varying degrees. They can also include animal products, which a lot of people don't think about when they hear plant-based. So tonight's presentation will kind of go over all the variations of what a plant-based diet is, give some guidance and some recommendations. So when you hear plant-based diet, some of you may think vegan, which includes no animal product whatsoever. They use replacements or suitable alternatives. Vegetarian diets can include dairy and eggs to varying degrees. Those who follow a lacto-ovo-vegetarian diet consume both dairy and eggs. Those who consume a lacto-vegetarian diet consume only dairy and exclude eggs. And those who consume an ovo-vegetarian diet exclude dairy and include eggs. You could also have a flexitarian diet. So someone who is a flexitarian will eat a vegetarian diet, but may also include, 1 or 2 meat-based meals. A pescatarian is the same as a vegetarian. However, they include fish and will exclude red meat and also poultry. The AICR Cancer Protective Diet is really the only, well, other than my plate, which we'll get into later, but they actually set more of a guideline where the plate should be 2/3 plant foods and 1/3 or less animal product. Are all plant-based foods healthy? I know over time, especially manufacturers like to kind of cater to what everyone's vying towards nowadays, and there's been a big push for plant-based diets because consumers have pushed for that. So manufacturers have kept up with the demand, increased their manufacturing of products that are plant-based, but not everything plant-based is necessarily healthy. So let's take a look at some things, not everything, some things, and we'll kind of see what I mean. So the most common thing, and they've been around for a while, is plant-based milks. Now, some of this information can vary by brand, so always read the label of the brand that you buy. And this just compares cow's milk, soy milk, almond milk, and oat milk. For the milk alternatives, I did use the unsweetened versions just for comparison. I could have used sweetened. I just didn't feel like comparing sugar content because that's not the priority here. When we consume milk or milk alternatives, that product is really going over certain nutrients of concern. Those are protein, calcium, and potassium. And you can see that each of these milks have different levels of protein. When you follow a diet where you eliminate something like cow's milk and you go to replace it, you want to find something similar nutrient-wise. If you find something different nutrient-wise, it's fine. It just means you have to seek out sources otherwise. For example, we see that cow's milk has 8.2 grams of protein, whereas almond milk and oat milk really only have 1 gram. So you're going to need to consume a little extra protein from another source throughout the day. For some reason, when I was making this PowerPoint, for calcium, I did percent daily value except for oat milk. And just for your reference, the 460 milligrams of calcium is 35% of your daily value. I don't know what came over with me, I apologize. Another nutrient of concern is potassium, and you can see that the potassium in cow's milk is higher than almond milk and oat milk again. So what that means is you're going to have to consume other sources of potassium throughout your day, which if you're consuming a plant-based diet may not be difficult as long as it's well planned. So here we're looking at plant-based butter. I also included margarine because when I saw all these commercials for plant-based butters, that's what came to my mind. I'm like, margarine is just hydrogenated vegetable oil. Vegetable oil has vegetable right in the name. So are these butters healthier? Do they offer benefits beyond butter? Any of these products you really shouldn't be using excessive amounts of. I mean, they all have the same amount of fat, relatively different levels of saturated fat, but they're not drastically different. The only thing that's different is the butter has cholesterol, which animal products will have cholesterol. There is debate over dietary cholesterol versus, avoiding that. So again, you have to kind of sit down and look at your diet overall and see, is this an issue? Am I consuming excess cholesterol somewhere else? Should I cut back here? And is this really the place to cut back? If you're using only a pat of butter every now and then, it may not make sense for you. So what is the point is plant-based marketing. Manufacturers have come a long way with their products. They hear consumers' demand for the product, so they're going to manufacture products that they can sell to the people demanding it. Not everything marketed as plant-based is healthy. I encourage all of you to read the label and also know that plant-based alternatives are processed. Now, processed has become another dirty word. Not everything that's processed is bad. We want to avoid anything overly processed, but minimal processing is perfectly fine. So I also want to bring up the fact that, there's a certain company who has made a plant-based burger, and I looked it up and compared it to another burger that they offer. It's the same burger, just one is plant-based, another is meat-based. And the nutritionals are the same. Essentially, it's 30 calories difference, higher in sodium for the plant-based burger, lower in cholesterol, a little bit for the plant-based burger. But when you go out to eat, don't automatically assume that this plant-based food is healthier. Make sure you include a variety of vegetables and fruits. That's really the key to a healthy, well-balanced plant-based meal. This is just another example that I wanted to include of label reading. When it comes to label reading, I can't emphasize enough how important it is. You see these two products, and technically they're both plant-based, but is one healthier than the other? No. And veggie straws are marketed as being lower in fat, lower in cholesterol, but if you look at it on paper, it's really not that much different. So now that I beat the read the label thing to death, we're going to go over the benefits of plant-based diets. So there are a few benefits of well-planned plant-based diets. You have increased intake of fiber, which promotes good bowel health and also promotes a feeling of fullness. Consuming all these plant-based foods, increased intake of antioxidants, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. And it also increases your intake of phytochemical-rich foods. Now, phytochemicals are literally plant chemicals. So the plant produces these chemicals to prevent viruses and infections from affecting the plant. You may have heard of some of them, like resveratrol, which is found in red wine. And there was a lot of marketing on resveratrol and heart health. However, the American Institute of Cancer Research really says that alcohol should be eliminated or limited. So if you're looking for that resveratrol that's heart healthy, you can find it in grape juice, grapes, and actually peanuts. Flavonoids are another phytochemical. They include catechins, hesperidin, which is found in citrus fruits, and flavanols such as quercetin, which is in apples, berries, kale, and onions. So if you've ever smelled broccoli or cauliflower or Brussels sprouts and you've tasted them and thought they were very pungent in flavor, you can thank the glucosinolates for those. That's another phytochemical. The next phytochemical I talk about is phytoestrogens, which are found in soy and flax products. And I do get a lot of questions about soy products. Are they safe? There's a lot of controversy surrounding them, especially in my patients who have hormone-related cancers. And a lot of the old studies were done in mice. And in mice, it showed that those who consumed a high soy diet with these phytoestrogens did have increased growth of their tumors, which sounds scary. However, we are not mice. They found in newer research that humans metabolize soy a lot differently than mice do. So in humans consuming soy products, it's perfectly safe. Phytoestrogens have estrogen-like properties, but they also have anti-estrogen properties. So they do block estrogen in the body. So if you're someone who wants to consume maybe a vegan or vegetarian diet, consuming soy products in moderation has been shown to be perfectly safe. Some general guidelines for following plant-based diets. You want to aim for a variety of whole grains. You may be familiar with brown rice, whole wheat, quinoa. You may be less familiar with farro, sorghum, whole grain rye, wheat berries. I encourage you to kind of peruse the internet for recipes and incorporate more of those into your diet. That way you're getting more of a variety. You also want to consume a variety of fruits and vegetables like apples, carrots, yellow peppers, spinach, blueberries, grapes, and cauliflower. If that seems like it's a rainbow, it's because it is. So you don't want to eat the same fruit every day. You don't want to eat the same vegetable every day. You want to try and keep the color variety there, keep the variety in there, because that'll give you a wider range of nutrition, a wider range of those vitamins, antioxidants, minerals, and phytochemicals that can help you maintain a healthy body. So this I'm not going to get into too much because I know there's a lot of controversy around organic versus conventional. So I'm just going to present the facts to you. For every study that says organic is superior, you can find a study that says conventional is just as good. There's no conclusive evidence to suggest that one is better than the other. So I don't promote one over the other. Organic foods are usually more expensive. So if you're someone who prefers to eat organic foods and can financially afford that, that's perfectly fine. Just know that if you eat organic foods, you still have to wash them properly because organic farming uses pesticides as well. They also use organic fertilizer. So just either way, make sure you're washing your fruits and vegetables. It is more beneficial for someone to consume a washed conventional piece of produce than to avoid eating produce because it's too cost prohibitive to them, if that makes sense. One person that I really like to go to, she has a great blog. It's cancerdietitian.com. I took this from her. Hope it's okay. She'll probably be fine with it. But she created this wonderful summary of plant-based eating patterns that give you some guidelines. And I say guidelines because everybody is different. So your body may require more food than another person's body. Your body may require more calories than another person's body. So look at this chart, take it with a grain of salt, and kind of customize it to you and how your lifestyle is. If you're someone who exercises a lot, you're definitely going to need to consume a little extra somewhere, whether it's from the vegetables, the grains, the beans. Just make sure you're aiming for a well-rounded diet and aiming for enough calories for you. The next few slides, we'll go over what plant-based meals look like. I'm going to go through breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and some snacks. So I couldn't find a picture for the scrambled eggs with pepper, tomato, and onions with a side of grapes. You could also include a slice of toast with that meal too. That's a great plant-based option for those who do consume meat. For those who don't consume meat and prefer more of like a toast breakfast, we have these avocado toasts, one with hummus and tomato, one with avocados and sesame seeds, and then there's also the classic hazelnut chocolate spread with bananas. So figure out what you like to eat and kind of modify according to your taste, according to your preferences. Excuse me. Here we have examples of plant-based lunches or plant-based dinners, depending. On the left, we have the black beans, sweet potatoes with rice, guacamole, and tomatoes. And on the right, we have something that incorporates meat. So it's chicken salad with nuts, some dried fruit, a nice little lettuce leaf underneath it with some whole wheat crackers, some tomatoes, some celery, a little bit of cheese, and that can be a nice filling lunch. And then for dinner, you could have a zoodle bowl. Now, a lot of people like to do zoodles, but they'll just do zoodles. It's kind of like salad. People will do salad, but they'll just have lettuce with something on it. You want to incorporate more than just one vegetable in your meal, kind of like the picture on the right. So the picture on the right is from the AICR, going over what a ideal plant-based plate could look like. So it's 2 different vegetables, the brown rice, and then the pork chops. So having a variety of foods at each meal, having a variety of foods throughout the day, again, will kind of incorporate more variety of nutrition, incorporate all the minerals and vitamins that your body needs. If you're someone who likes stir fries and casseroles, you can still have your stir fry or your casserole, just add extra vegetables. And that might be, you know, a small step towards eating more of a plant-based diet, or it could be the step to eating a plant-based diet, depending on how much you add. So I'm a big snacker, so I included snacks because that's a must. So you could have cut bananas with peanut butter on whole grain crackers, your traditional hummus with, you know, peppers, carrots, whatever vegetable you like, apple slices with peanut butter and chocolate chips. Sometimes I'll slice them horizontally, so it's kind of like a cookie shape, and that's something I think is fun, and I like to do that. Blueberries with plain yogurt, grapes and cheese, cucumber, tomato, and cheese on whole grain crackers. I always say think about what you like to eat and kind of add some vegetables, add some fruit, whatever you need to do. Maybe switching out your white bread for your whole wheat bread is just another small step that you can make. So how to start? I always say keep it simple, sweetie. You know, start with one meal that you know and like. Let's say you like mac and cheese. Add some vegetable to it, or you can have a portion of mac and cheese, and then for the rest of your plate, maybe you'll have some broccoli or cauliflower, and then a side salad. And that's that's a good plant-based meal. Add an additional fruit, add an additional vegetable, increase your fruit and vegetable intake, and increase your grains so that when you have your plate, it slowly starts to take up 3/4 of your plate, and then you slowly cut back on your animal products. And that's a way to kind of increase it gradually, make it so that you can adjust to it. And then the example I gave was, you know, if you have eggs and toast for breakfast, you could do eggs and toast, but maybe today you have eggs with peppers and toast, and then another day you have eggs with toast and grapes, and you slowly incorporate more plant-based meals into your diet. So on a plant-based diet, what foods should you avoid? I would avoid foods that you're allergic to and foods that you don't like. Foods to reduce are red meat. The AICR suggests limiting it to 18 ounces or less per week. And then refined grains, they do offer nutrition and they have been fortified. However, we do want to make about half or less daily the refined grains. So increasing your intake of whole grains is ideal. And we do want to minimize added sugars. They're white sugar, brown sugar, maple syrup, honey, agave, and the guideline is to limit added sugars to 10% of your calorie intake. So for example, if you're someone who eats 2,000 calories a day, you want 200 calories or less coming from added sugars. So when reading labels, I always say exercise caution. They are changing the nutrition label. I'm not sure when that is, but I know some labels right now don't separate natural sugars from added sugars, but you will start to see some nutrition labels separate out how many grams of added sugars are in this product, which I find a lot more helpful than looking at the total sugar, because some products like yogurt will have naturally occurring sugar in it. It's just, do they add anything to it? If you're looking for additional resources, I highly recommend these sites. I'm sorry, this slide came out a little hard to read, but again, they're the AICR.org, cancerdietitian.com, which Julie Langford is the dietitian who runs that. She has a blog. She goes over a lot of those common questions that patients have, like the soy and the cancer. She also has something on sugar and cancer. You could also check out eatright.org, which is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetic website, and also the oncologynutrition.org, which is the dietetic practice group of eatright.org. So I think Parmander is going to help me out with some questions. So if any of you have some questions, you can type them on in and I will answer them to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Leigh. So we have a few questions. The first question is, do plant-based butters have trans fats in them? That is, are their oils hydrogenated?
It depends on the brand. So I would, if you have a favorite brand, I would look at the nutrition label and they have to list if it has trans fats.
Okay. The next question is, does cooking affect phytochemical content in foods?
So cooking can affect certain nutrient content, which is why it is recommended to do a variety of cooked and raw foods. For example, I know if you have raw spinach, it's higher in oxalates, so it binds to the calcium, but it's a good source of folate. But if you cook the spinach, it breaks down the oxalate, so it's better for calcium, but it's not so good for folate. So have a variety.
And then the next question is, how can you properly wash fruits and vegetables? Is water enough?
So from everything that I've looked at, they do say that water is good enough. You just want to vigorously scrub it. So if you have like a vegetable brush, or if you don't have one, I would suggest getting one and setting it aside as a vegetable brush or fruit brush. They say that the friction is enough with the water.
Okay. And shouldn't we consume plant-based whole foods in forms as close to their natural state as possible, avoiding overly processed foods and animal products and staying away from added salt, oil, and sugar? Your view of this definition of a plant diet and its health benefits?
So yes, we do want to consume plant-based foods as close to their natural form as possible. It depends on how much time you have. So for example, with a vegan diet, you really need to sit down and go over your meal plan to make sure that you're getting in enough nutrition. And sometimes reaching for that, more processed burger that is soy-based is a little more convenient, but it can be just as healthy versus, so for example, if you reach for that plant-based burger that is processed, it's healthier than not getting enough protein that day. Does that make sense? I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that makes sense. So the next question would be, would you recommend this diet for a diabetic?
Yes. I think as long as you work with your endocrinologist and dietitian to kind of tweak what works best for you, because that's where it comes down to a very individualized plan. So yes, I think this could definitely work for someone with diabetes.
Great. And next question, is there a need to supplement with vitamins if you don't eat meat?
So if you're a lacto-ovo vegetarian or you do consume some type of animal product, there is no need to supplement. However, if you consume a strict vegan diet, you do need to supplement with a reliable source of vitamin B12. And if you go to, I know if you Google vegetarian DPG, the Vegetarian Dietetic Practice Group should pop up, and they have a lot of resources on vegetarian and vegan diets. And they also have a resource sheet for vitamin B12, and it goes over all that in detail.
Oh, that sounds like a great resource. And then the next question, is resveratrol bad if you have chronic anemia? And if so, should you avoid it? And what foods have it again?
It wouldn't be bad if you have anemia, no. So you wouldn't need to avoid it.
Okay. And then how can we identify the amount of protein in plant-based foods?
So a lot of times they'll have a label. Again, this goes back to the processed foods. So soy food will come in a package and you can check the label and it'll list protein on there.
Okay, one more question. My husband suffers from kidney stones. Which foods can you recommend to stay away from, and what can be substituted in order to get the same nutrients, fiber, etc.?
So I think there's a lot of debate over if it's calcium that's causing the kidney stones or the sodium. So making sure for kidney stones, the diet recommendations are really to increase the fluid intake, to increase urination, and then, talk to the doctor about calcium versus sodium and try and not overdo it on the sodium and try and not overdo it on the calcium. So it's not really avoiding any plant-based foods, it's really just avoiding those heavily processed high sodium foods.
Great, thank you.